don't know if Barry Harris would love this idea or hate it, but for the last many years, I've been wondering, is there a way to create sophisticated jazz guitar harmony using nothing more than basic triads? Voicings that sound far too lush and rich to be just triads, that move with flowing orchestral linear motion, where some voices climb while others fall, or hang in place while subtle harmonic shifts glide underneath. It's the kind of sound we associate with guitar masters like Ted Green, Ed Bickert, and Jim Hall, and even closer to what we expect from piano legends like Bill Evans, Herbie Hancock, and McCoy Tyner. But what if all of that could start with something as simple as triads? And this is where Barry comes in. I started to wonder if the sound I was chasing might be possible by combining the simplicity of triad pairs with the depth and elegance of Barry Harris's six diminished theory. Now, I'm no scholar of Barry's system. I was only lucky enough to study and play with him once. But that one experience changed me. His teaching has this relentless logic, almost spiritual clarity that keeps revealing deeper truths about harmony every time you revisit it. After years of exploring how to blend Barry's sophistication with the simplicity of triad pairs to unlock this orchestral harmony, I finally put my thoughts together into a 3-day masterclass inside my Melodic Triads mentorship program called Creative Comping with Triad Pairs. And in this video, I'm not only going to break down how you can start combining these two beautiful worlds of harmony, I'm also going to go ahead and let you watch the entire day 3 live call, where we focused on the diminished triad pair and applied it to comping and chord melody. If you're a returning subscriber, hit the like button. Let me know what you've been working on. If you're new here, I'm Jordan. I studied and played with Schofield, Rosenwinkel, Peter Bernstein, and a little bit with Barry Harris. I taught jazz at NYU and Fordham here in New York City. Then brain disease took away my ability to play and forced me to start over. I started this channel to share the wisdom of my mentors, what worked for my students, and the breakthroughs I discovered starting over again with you. I hope by the end of this video, you'll be interested in subscribing and hanging for a while. We've got a lot to cover, so I'll break it down into 5 parts to keep us on track. Part 1, an intro to creative comping with triad pairs, including how to combine them with Barry Harris's theory. Part 2, the diminished triad pair, theory and harmonic applications. Part 3, Barry Harris's concept of borrowing, how to create advanced orchestral linear motion from triads. Part 4, application and etude examples, including comping and chord melody studies on Autumn Leaves, Stella by Starlight, and My Romance. Part 5, the Q&A segment from our recent live call, answering students' questions you might be wondering too. We've got a lot to cover, so grab the PDF with the link in the description, and let's dive in. Part 1, an intro to creative comping with triad pairs. How to combine triad pairs with Barry Harris's theory. If you're watching this video, you probably already know what triad pairs are, usually taught as a way to create melodic lines by alternating between 2 major triads. We're going to forget all of that for today. Instead, we're going to use triad pairs not for improvisation, but for harmony, to create rich, moving comping ideas that flow like a piano player. Let's start with the foundation. Barry Harris based his harmonic approach around the 6 diminished scale. That's C, D, E, F, G, G sharp, A, B, C. That's his C major 6 diminished scale. When you separate the notes by every other tone, you get C, E, G, A, a C6 chord, and D, F, G sharp, B, a D diminished chord. When we ascend through these, they alternate C6, D diminished 7, C6, D diminished 7. That gives us tonic tension, tonic tension, tonic tension. Each D diminished chord wants to move, creating constant forward motion rather than static harmony. This principle of tonic versus tension is the first concept we're borrowing from Barry. We'll apply it to triad pairs where one triad acts as home, the tonic, and the other as away, tension. For example, listen to these two triads. That's C major and D minor. Listen again. Hear how C major feels stable and resolved, while D minor feels like it's leaning forward, wanting to return home. That is tonic and tension, home and away. Simple, but powerful. The three diatonic triad pairs. The second concept we borrow from Barry is simplicity. Barry's method only needs a few parent scales to handle nearly every harmonic situation. We can do the same using just three core triad pairs: the major triad pair, the melodic minor triad pair, and the diminished or diminished dominant triad pair. The major triad pair. This one's easy. It's simply the one major triad and the two minor triad. In the key of C major, that's C major triad and D minor triad. It might sound too simple at first, but keep three things in mind. First, if Barry's chord scale system feels overwhelming to you, that's fine. This can act as a gateway drug. It gives you the same movement in principle, but in a much simpler and way more guitar-friendly format. Second, when you superimpose this triad pair over different diatonic harmonies, it transforms. For instance, here's this same triad pair placed over an F major 7 shell voicing. Two quick things to notice here. First, the D minor triad, our tension triad, is made of D, F, and A. That's the 1, 3, and 6 of this F major chord. In theory, that should force the D minor triad to sound like the most stable harmony we're hearing, because it's the shell voicing, root, third, sixth. But you may have noticed that it still wanted to pull back down to the C major triad. That means that we are destabilizing the root, third, and sixth, and we are resolving to and tonicizing the fifth, C, E, the major 7, and G, the 9. That's kind of cool. Even more so, you may have heard a few little bluesy intonations. That was me pulling off the E flat note down to the D. E flat is the minor third in the key of C major. So that's a blue note. By using this C major triad pair superimposed over F major, I can now destabilize the lower structure chord tones and tonicize the brighter, prettier major 7 and 9, and I have quick, easy access to a blue note. The third thing we want to keep in mind, remember, later in the video, we're going to borrow notes between triads, just like Barry taught, to disguise that simplicity and make these triads sound like modern voicings with orchestral linear motion. The melodic minor triad pair. Now we move into deeper water. Instead of using the major 1 and minor 2, we'll use the 5 major and 6 diminished triad. So for F melodic minor, that would be C major and D diminished. This pair outlines the sound of F melodic minor, meaning we can use it over any of its modes. Here it is over an F minor major 7 chord. There's the blue note again. Okay. Again, we have the blue note. And again, the root minor third and natural 6 are now giving us the tension triad, and they resolve to the C major, which is again the 5th, the major 7, and the 9. We can also put it over the other modes of F melodic minor, such as E altered dominant. Can you hear how one triad wants to resolve into the other? That is our tonic tension relationship again. Now, for our final pair, diminished or diminished dominant. For this section, I'm going to just let you watch the actual live class footage from day 3 of our masterclass so you can see exactly how we worked through these ideas in real time. A quick heads up, in this clip, I move a little faster through some sections as we had already covered certain topics during days 1 and 2 of our recent masterclass. So if you want to make sure you can keep up and don't miss anything, grab the free PDF using the link in the description if you haven't already. You'll be able to follow along with every triad, every voicing, every comping example, and every chord melody etude at your own pace. Part 2. The diminished triad pair. Theory. Today we're doing diminished. And for those of you who know your theory, you might know that diminished also overlaps with dominant. So this is like a dominant diminished triad pair. It's going to work for all of our dominant chords. If you want that nice clean, 13 flat 9, anything related to the diminished scale, any of those dominants are going to work with this, as well as all diminished. I'm not going to jump straight to giving you the triad pair like we did in days 1 and day 2, because I do want to start with some basic theory, because diminished is a squirrely harmony, right? It's symmetrical. It overlaps all over the fretboard. So let's just briefly talk through some diminished theory, and then I'll give you the triad pairs, plural, because there's more than one. And then we'll talk about superimpositions, right, where we can use it. Then we'll talk about borrowing notes and mutations. And then I do want to make sure we get to some application examples at the end of this PDF. I did write out some comping ideas and some chord melody ideas. If we take a B flat diminished 7 chord, okay, and we invert this, we move it up in minor thirds. Right, these are all inversions of B flat diminished 7. They also are all separate, unique diminished chords. We could name them based on the lowest pitch, and that would be B flat diminished 7, D flat diminished 7, E diminished 7, and G diminished 7. Okay. If we flatted any of the 4 notes from any of these diminished chords, it will always give us a dominant 7 chord. The easiest note to try this with is the root note. So if we take the root note, B flat, and move down 1 fret, we get A7. Okay. It's easiest to see this with the root, but it works with all 4 of the notes here. Okay. They don't always give you A7. They give 4 different dominant chords, but it's easiest to see it demonstrated with the root. That's true for D flat diminished also. If we flat the D flat, we get C. Now it's a C7. E diminished, if you flat the E, gives E flat 7. G diminished gives us G flat dominant 7. So there are 8 chords here, 4 diminished, 4 dominant, that are all related. They're effectively inversions of each other, more or less. The diminished chords are full-blown inversions. The dominant 7 chords are not exact replica inversions, but they're related enough. Okay, they all sit inside of the diminished scale. Each of the 4 dominant chords is built 1, 3, 5, flat 7, right? Major triad, flat 7. If we just remove that flat 7, we have a major triad sitting right there inside each dominant chord. So A7 is built with an A major triad. If we ignore the G note. Okay. C7 is built with a C major triad. E flat major triad, a G flat dominant, G flat major triad. Okay. All 4 major triads exist within this diminished dominant relationship inside of the diminished scale, which means we can build triad pairs out of this. Okay. I am not the biggest fan of going consecutive, meaning if I do A major, I don't like the results of jumping straight to C major. It's just so parallel. And then when you jump from C major to A major, there's a shared note. So we're not constantly moving, which is the whole goal of what we want, right? Way too much parallel movement. Every note is moving the same interval. And then a pedal tone. Way too much parallel movement. Another pedal tone. Okay. That's not good voice leading. And that's going to happen whether we go C up to A or C down to G flat. Did I say that right? Excuse me, A down to G flat. Right. So the only option we have if we want to break apart this parallel, nonstop ad nauseum parallel movement and to make sure that we never overlap with a single pitch is to do every other triad. So we're never going to do 2 consecutive triads in this. So it's not A and C. It's not C and E flat. No. It's always going to be A and E flat or C and G flat. When we do this, they never share the same note in common, and we never have the same inversion of that major triad 2 times in a row. It always flips to a new inversion. So here's C. When we go to G major, this is the 5th in the bass. Now the 3rd's in the bass when we go to G flat. Right, if I go back to C, 3rd's in the bass, root's in the bass. Okay, it constantly changes inversions, which, yes, they're all still moving the same direction, but it's not perfectly 100% parallel. This means that we have 2 possible triad pairs to choose from. Okay, each triad pair alone gives us 6 notes of the 8-note octatonic diminished scale. So they're missing 2 each, but still the majority of the picture. And each can be used to express any of the 8 harmonies we just discussed. All 4 diminished chords, all 4 dominant chords. Doesn't matter which triad pair we pick from. Okay? Because they all contain 6 of the 8 notes from the diminished scale. They're all related. By grouping them a tritone apart, as opposed to a minor third apart, we avoid the excessive parallel motion when moving between the triads and the shared note. This is G flat and C. String sets 2 through 4. Okay. We know that this can work over E diminished because we just talked about that. So let me go ahead and put this over an E note. Suggests E diminished. The second triad pair option we have is E flat and A major. Again, a tritone apart. Still works over the E, right? I'm still suggesting E diminished. Resolved to an F major chord, E diminished, up a half step to F major. Notice the gravitational pull, the tension resolution that we were experiencing in the major triad pair and the diminished triad pair is now gone. It's not there. When we were doing the major triad pair, oh, sorry, what key did we do? It was C. That D minor clearly wants to resolve back to C major. Up or down. Right, that's what gives it that bebop scale effect, that Barry Harris 6 diminished effect, tension resolution. Same thing is true with our melodic minor triad pair. The diminished triad always wants to resolve back. Okay. With diminished triad pairs, that disappears. There is no tension resolution anymore because diminished is just pure tension. Like, that's all it is. There is no stability in diminished. We can sit on it for a minute, but it's always going to want to move. So these triad pairs are perfectly balanced to create tension and motion, nothing else. Okay? It doesn't matter which triad pair you pick. It doesn't matter which triad you start on. You have 4 different options. They all work. 4 different options as your starting triad. Once you pick a starting triad, then the other triad is given because we have to group them together into tritone relationships. Okay? Hopefully this is making sense. I don't see any questions in the chat box, so I think we're good. We have G flat and C, C and G flat, E flat and A and E flat. They all work for all 8 harmonies. Harmonic usage ideas. Superimposition options. There's only 3 sets of these triad pairs. There's 2 triad pairs per diminished scale. There's only 3 diminished scales. If you know your diminished theory, once you play through a diminished scale, you move it up a half step, it's different. You move it up another half step, it's different again. You move it up another half step, it is now just an inversion of the original diminished scale. It's the same pitches, which means there's only 3 sets of 2 triad pairs that could ever be used to create this diminished triad pair. Specifically if we're dealing with major triads, which is how I like to do this. I went ahead and notated them out. We're not really going to go over the other 2, but I did want you to have the list for future reference. Pro tip, if and when you start transposing this to other keys, if you're looking at a standard and you're trying to figure out what triads to use and you want to just grab something really quick, you can do any of the 4 triad pair options against any of the 8 chords. But my recommendation, if you see a G flat 7 dominant chord, you can just leap for a G flat major triad. You don't have to transpose, you don't have to think, you don't have to look for anything, it's just root structure. And then once you pick that, G flat, we know what the second triad has to be. It has to be C. Okay. If you're doing G diminished, if you're looking for a diminished chord, just move the root note down a half step and you're at G flat again, right? G diminished, go down a half step, G flat, turn it into a major triad. Okay. So if you do G flat 7, G flat major triad, C major triad. If you're doing G diminished, go down a half step, G flat, turn it into a major triad, C major. This works for any harmony. If you look at the second grouping, G and D flat, E and B flat major triads, right? What do you see for the dominant chord? G7. That's the first one listed. What do you see for the diminished? A flat. What's a half step below A flat? G. So you can just start on the G. Same thing is true down below that, A flat dominant, right? What's the root note of A flat? A flat. What's the first triad that we see listed? A flat. And then A diminished, go down a half step. This is going to be true of every harmony on this page and every harmony you'll ever stumble onto. You don't have to. If you get good at all these triad pairs, you can use any of the options, but that's the quickest fail-safe way to do this without giving yourself too bad of a migraine. Charlie, LG, good to see you guys. All right, let's apply these to some chord progressions. So at the top of the next page, we have a 2-5-1, D minor 7, G7, C6. G7 is a dominant. Any of the triad pair options could work for this, but again, the pro tip is just pick a root structure triad. Okay, if it's G7, G major, and then find the triad tritone away, which would be D flat. So we get something along these lines. Okay. That was C major and D minor for the D minor 7. G major and D flat for the G dominant. And then G major and A minor for the C major chord. I'm not borrowing any notes. We're not doing any fancy variations right now, just pure triads. We could treat the D minor 7, the 2 chord, as a dominant. That's allowed. If we did that, D dominant, again, what's the root? D. So it's a D major triad with an A flat would be the tension triad. Okay. Technically, as it's written, it's a minor 7, so we wouldn't apply diminish, but if you're aware that you can turn minor 2 chords into 2 dominant chords, then you can apply it there. Your 4 options would be G and D flat, which you could flip and start on the D flat and G, okay? Or B flat and E. For those of you who've been hanging with me for a while and know how obsessed I am with the 13 flat 9 harmony, I can spot that E major triad sitting on top of G dominant, you know, half asleep with the flu. So for me, it's very easy to leap for that. And it does unlock a very pretty sound. It's mildly different from the upper extensions that G and D flat give me, because I'm not using a G major triad, so I'm letting go of the root and third. Like, I'm never hearing just that clean vanilla root structure. The sharp 9, the 13, the flat 9, but there's still that D flat triad gives some really cool sounds over G7. So both of those options work in either direction. Doesn't matter. G and D flat, B flat and E. Okay, both work. Next one, D minor 7, G7, C6, E flat diminished. That's a flat 3 diminished chord that loops us back to the 2. Anybody remember the pro tip for figuring out the triad pair, the quickest, easiest triad pair for diminished? You find the root note of the diminished chord, go down a half step. So E flat down a half step is D, just turned into a major triad. D major, right? And then a tritone away is A flat major. That was just E flat, diminish, nice little shell voicing. Resolving to D minor. It just flows right into it, right? It sounds like I'm playing a flat 3 diminish. Okay. We could also plug in the same triad pairs that we just discussed from the previous example over G7 again. So, for example, let's do E major and B flat. In the real world, we're probably going to have a bass player with us, so we don't have to worry about these. third example. This is a 2-5-1, but we're delaying the resolution of the 1. We're going to the tonic diminished. So C diminished, resolving to C6. Okay, we see this in not as frequently as we see some of our other diminished chords, but it does exist out there in the real world. Again, pro tip, find the root note of the diminished chord, C, go down a half step, B. Turn that B into a major triad. That's your initial starting point, so you don't have to think too much. And then you just have to find the triad, a tritone away. So here's D minor. Borrowed one of our notes. Sorry about that. E, B flat, B major, F major, G major. Okay. These are just some basic examples of classic progressions that we're going to see and how I would think through the diminished options. Part 3. Combining Barry Harris's borrowing and other harmonic techniques for developing more advanced voicings and orchestral linear movement. All right, we got our basic borrowing above. Okay. If anybody is jumping into this who hasn't watched the first 2 days, we're just going to take each triad and grab the note from the triad sitting directly above it on the fretboard. So here's G flat. There's C. Okay. So I'm just going to steal this 5th fret E note from the C triad and put it over the lower dyad notes, the lower 2 voices from G flat. And I'll do the whole thing over this E so we can kind of hear it in the diminished context. It looks like a dominant 7 shell. Okay, here's C. Grabbing the G flat note from the triad above it. Does not sound like a diminished 7 shell anymore. Dominant 7 shell. It's a pretty hip way to play E diminished. What do we got? We got minor 3rd, flat 13, and the natural 9. You're not going to see that as a voicing for diminished very often, but that's a killing voicing. Next one is G flat, grabbing the C note, right? Then we got C, grabbing the G flat note. Then we got G flat, grabbing the C, C grabbing the G flat, and G flat grabbing the C. If you want to add some liquid harmony in to fill in those 2 missing notes from the diminished scale, or even just chromatic passing lines, right? Okay. You can flow with this stuff as much as you want. That's borrowing above. And then same thing for the E flat and A major triad pair. Here's the E flat major triad. Barring above, okay. A major barring the E flat note. All the same shapes, right? They're just going to be a minor 3rd away from the other version. That is, I'm flying through these because we've already gone over this and you have the notation. I want to get to the application. That's the barring above, barring below, same deal. G flat, grabbing the C note below it. Right, when we borrow above, we get larger intervals in our voicings. So quartal sometimes, perfect 5th sometimes. Here, we're getting a crunchy minor 2nd. And in particular, if we put this over the E note, because this can work over all 8 of the harmonies we talked about, all 8 of them. If we put this over E, This is the 9, the flat 5, and the flat 13. What a killing set of notes. Just vamping back and forth between E diminished, F major 7. Such cool voice leading in this stuff. I know I'm talking a lot about motion, but don't be afraid to just pick any of these and explore it as a voicing option and plug it into movement, see what happens. Can you voice lead this somewhere? Not only is this E diminished, it's also G diminished, right? Major 7, minor 3rd, 11. But it's G diminished. Right? All of these voicing options open up for all 8 of the harmonies. There's G flat barred below, there's C barred below. Okay, G flat, C, etc., etc., etc. We're gonna get little crunchy half steps. That's barring below for G flat and C, and then we also have A flat and E. Again, they're gonna be the exact same voicings, just a minor 3rd apart from the G flat and C triad pair. What am I doing? A flat and E. If we treat this as E diminished, what's a good E diminished tune? That's the, what is that, the C section to Someday My Prince Will Come. Lots of unexpected sounds that you're not gonna find using drop 2 or... Okay, very pianistic, very modern. Let's talk about our whirlwinds. Remember, our whirlwinds are 2 consecutive triads, always back and forth. One of them's gonna bar above, one's gonna bar below, so that we get this seesaw effect, right? It's like spinning around in a circle. Fantastic for looping. So here's G flat, barring the C note from above, to C, barring the G flat note from below. So the top voice is going down, the bottom dyad is going up. I mean, talk about a ridiculously cool way to play a diminished chord as opposed to just, I mean, that's fine. F major. Okay. So much potential here for motion. And then the E flat and A. We'll skip over playing that because it's the same concept, just different shapes. Tornadoes we discussed yesterday. If anybody missed it, instead of 2 consecutive triads, it's 3 consecutive triads. We pick the triad in the middle, and we just pedal on the top voice of that one, and then we move the lower dyad up and down to the 2 consecutive directly above and below. Now we have oblique motion, right? Whirlwinds give us contrary motion. Top voice moves different direction, opposing the bottom dyad. The tornado gives us oblique motion. Top note stays put, bottom notes move. So we get this is the G flat dyad, C major dyad, G flat major dyad, C major. You can just play this without the top voice too. That's actually pretty hip. Doesn't sound anything like triad pairs, but it is. But what I was doing was adding E diminished, E major 7, or F major 7, right? Wherever you want that diminished chord to resolve, you can resolve it. That's our tornado. All right, the last practice type that I'm going to introduce in this masterclass, we're going to call these twisters. So we have whirlwinds, which are small, right? Tornadoes, which are bigger. The twister is like, it's going to move us all the way across. It's going to lift us up and carry us across the fretboard. When we combine contrary motion from the whirlwind technique and oblique motion from the tornado technique, we get our twister technique. This is when we ascend 3 consecutive triads with the top voice pedaling. So that's the tornado, right? 3 triads. But instead of returning to the second triad, the middle one, we're going to use a whirlwind to create contrary motion. And that contrary motion is going to bring the dyad back, but it's going to move the pedal point to the next diatonic triad pair note. So this is going to stay put. We get 1, 2, 3, and then they switch. 1, 2, 3, switch. 1, 2, 3, switch. Right. So this is going to be a partial tornado, but every time we complete it, we move into the next position, the next inversion. It's going to carry us up or down the fretboard. Same exact thing I was just playing. But I'm not going to return to the C triad. Okay. The bottom 2 voices are going to return, but the top voice is going to go up, right? That's a whirlwind. Was a new tornado. Okay. Now this triad pair, the dyad, excuse me, is going to drop, but the top voice is going to move up again. Is this making sense? When you practice it this way, you're literally carrying yourself all the way up, and then if you want, you can descend also back down the entire string set of our triad pair option. Contrary motion, oblique motion, just constantly moving. Part 4, application ideas and etudes for comping and for chord melody. Autumn leaves, comping. Let's actually talk about like how do we get this into our playing. Okay, I'm a big fan of 2-5-1 practice, 2-5-1-6. 2-5-1, 2-5-1 flat 3 diminished, right? Use those pages I put into not just this PDF bundle, but the last 2 days I think I put it in each one to talk through what our options are. Like write out all your options and then just grab one and play with it for a while. To me, that's probably the number one tool I have in my toolkit when I'm trying to learn a new concept, a new technique. To get it into my playing, because it's just the smallest. It's like a little kid with just a couple of building blocks. I don't have 50,000 building blocks needing to put together like, you know, a life-size castle. It's just a couple of building blocks, and once I get the hang of it, it gives me this confidence, this mojo to try it in another key, and then I'll push myself there, and then I might try and rotate between the 2 keys, and then I'll start slowly plugging it into standards. It usually comes out a little more organically that way, but it is very helpful to sometimes sit with a chunk of a standard. I rarely do an entire standard, but 4 bars or 8 bars, an A section, and really thinking through some options, writing some etudes. What I did here is I wrote a couple of etudes between 2 and 3 for 3 different standards. The first step I did, A, because I want you guys to think and practice in baby steps, but B, because I think and practice in baby steps. That's why I want you to do it also. It's just, it feels like we're going slower, but it's actually the fastest route, right? The shortcut is the long path. So the very first thing I did was I wrote out an A section in Autumn Leaves just with pure triads. Okay, there's no borrowing, there's no whirlwinds, there's nothing fancy beyond can I figure out what triad pair to use and plug it in and then voice lead through it. So this first example, real basic. I didn't even put rhythms into this. It's just half notes. the sake of our call, I'm trying to put the root notes under it so you can kind of get the gist of the chord progression. It's just the A section. I personally don't love the sound of this that much. Like, it's not rocking my world, but it totally works. Okay, it's a very clean, I don't want to say vanilla sound, but the use of pure triads is perfectly acceptable. It's just a little bit obvious that we're playing really simple ideas, but we're using some upper extensions. That opening voicing, we have the 9 and the 11, right? And the flat 7. Okay, it totally works. Over the D7, we have the root 3/5 because I'm using the D major triad. Why? Because D7, grab the root note of that, use that major triad. That's the pro tip for figuring out our diminished triad pair. And then A flat gives us the sharp 11, the flat 7, and the flat 9. So we get some cool chord tones here. I use the major 7 version of the major triad pair in bars 3 and 4. So D and E minor give us G major 7. They give us C major 7, sharp 11. And then we've got a bunch of melodic minor stuff to end on, right? B7, we've got melodic minor for the alto dominant. E minor major we get. And then E alto dominant. Okay. Now, the second half of the page is the exact same thing. I did not rewrite anything. All I did was change the top notes. All of the other triad notes, the dyad hiding below it, are the exact same. I did this on purpose. I want you guys to see the baby step-like methods that I personally take. So depending on where you are, I think everybody should start with the top half of this page. Okay, begin there. If you want to memorize what I wrote, cool. Doesn't really matter whether you memorize it or not. It's more important that you understand why I picked these triad pairs, that you can see the triad pairs on the fretboard, and that you can move through it either to pick your own triad pairs. These are not the only options. They're just the ones I picked. And or to use the triad pairs I picked, but navigate and voice lead in your own direction, like wherever you want to go. Right? This is not the only answer. It's a correct set of triad pairs and one way of navigating through those triad pairs. There's a lot of different ways. But the second half is where we actually start hiding the fact that these are triad pairs. So instead of G, A minor, pure triads, it's G, A minor, but notice that I wrote borrow above. That's the technique I'm employing here. Okay. Now it doesn't sound like I'm just playing basic triads. For the D7, I used the Whirlwind. So that's the first voicing we're going to hear for measure 2. If you're playing with a bass player and they play the D note, followed by that really crunchy half step diminished voicing. Right, these actually start to sound like modern jazz voicings now. Last voicing in the C major 7 measure. I mean, there's some beautiful stuff in here. I specifically notated what technique I'm using. Borrowing above, borrowing below, whirlwinds. I don't think there's any tornadoes in this example. Stella by Starlight, comping. On the next page is Stella. Same exact deal. Okay, 2 examples. Top half, pure triads. We got melodic minor, diminished major, melodic minor major, all 3, okay, commingled. And then the bottom half, same exact thing, but with variations and mutations. In this one, I went ahead and used the tornado. So this is B flat major, C minor triad pair, which gives me E flat major 7. Now there's almost like a little harmonic motif, right? Same technique. Do da dee da. Okay. If you can grab root notes underneath some of these ideas, that's killing, but it's not always going to be possible. With some of the voicings, it's possible. With some of these whirlwinds, especially the tornado, really difficult, if not sometimes impossible, to get them in. My Romance, chord melody. I went ahead and wrote out 3 examples for My Romance. Okay, let me talk you through the difference between them and try and play it a little bit. The first one, first of all, this is not just random voicings. I didn't just look at the chord progression and plug these in. I picked my triad pairs partially from the chord progression, but I was looking at the melody. Okay, this is a harmonization of the melody. If you look at the top note all the way through this, it's the melody to the A section. Okay, so my goal was to try and properly harmonize the melody with whatever triad pair works to suggest the chord, but encompasses the notes of the melody. There is one moment where I couldn't get the note that I wanted, because it was our 7th note, our missing diatonic note, and that's in measure 1, 2, 3. Measure 3 and the F7. The A natural note is not there. We don't have an A natural note there. I decided to use this as an opportunity to throw our liquid harmony concept in. So it's just a C minor. It's just C minor triad with the A note resolving down to G. Okay. Usually in measure 2 we go, not measure 2, the second half of measure 1, it usually goes to a C minor chord. I went ahead and went to the relative major. The 2 and the 4 chord are interchangeable, and we have not yet used an augmented major 7. I don't think I used it anywhere in the previous 2 examples, and I really wanted one. And the melody falls in line perfectly with it. So I changed C minor to E flat major, relative minor, in beat 3 of measure 1, and I'm going to harmonize that with the G major triad. Okay, super beautiful. So we got really clean, like a little bit obnoxiously clean. That's just pure triads. Page 2, I added some mutations in, right? The opening melody. Did I play it this way? I went to our melodic minor for the opening phrase. So now it's, instead of, now it's, actually I don't resolve right to this, I go. Okay. Downbeat of measure 1 is not a full-blown tornado, it's a mini tornado. I'm pedaling on the top melody note, and I'm starting on the triad below, resolving into it. That's G minor resolving up to F. Right? How did I do the, oh yeah. What are we doing here? Yeah, you guys can play through it. It's just triads, but with the mutations. That's the second page. The third page, I actually went ahead and filled in a little bit of some of the things I would do if I was playing in the real world, at least what I would try and work my way up to. And it's pretty advanced. I'm not even sure that I can play it yet, but it's bringing in some of our left hand, right hand imaginary piano player ideas. So you'll notice that it starts with a low F note. Right, this is an F7 flat 5 shell voicing, a thirdless root, flat 5, flat 7, root. You can imagine like a piano player playing a couple notes in their left hand. Boo boo doo doo ba. just the voicing, but I'm playing the low root note. What is this? This is the basic voicing, but I picked a more interesting note for my left hand. It's just another chord tone. It's not the root. This is an A flat dominant. Okay, that's the voicing that I get from our triad pair. That's the flat 7 of the A flat dominant. I could have played, but I just played it. And I just wanted some more motion. So it encircles and encloses the G root note. So I get parallel quartal, almost McCoy Tyner style voicings up here, and that enclosure in the bottom voice. Okay. Let's see if I remember this. That's the same thing. I just played the D note, the top voice, the melody voice first. No, I didn't. Okay. Full disclosure, I am not a big fan of memorizing tons of arrangements. There is value to them. I do enjoy writing them and playing through them. And sometimes they're pieces to things I'll memorize. Most musicians are. Most musicians will tell you just like memorize, hundreds, thousands of arrangements. And just let them slowly infuse in your playing. And there's definitely value to that. I'm really digging this triad pair concept. I've been marinating on and slowly working through for several years now, with the goal of trying to figure out how to dumb it all down, because like there's so much stuff that can be done. And it's, for me, just too overwhelming to think about having a different triad pair for every chord. I like the idea of having like a Barry Harris type approach to it, where it's like a major scale, a minor scale, and then we have our diminished scale as triad pairs. It will take some work, for me, for sure, to get it fluid, where it's just moving. I like to personally balance a little bit of etude writing and arranging with a whole lot of just sitting and trying to find my way through obstacle courses in real time, but tiny little obstacle courses, like a 2-5-1, right? If I can think through a 2-5-1 rubato, it's kind of like a little kid learning to walk. Like once I find my balance, I can like see the shapes and I can move through it slow, way out of time. Could never pull it off with a drummer or other musicians, but I can put the puzzle pieces together slowly. Once that clicks, it's a lot like a little kid figuring out how to take their first step. Like the second step just comes, and then the third step, and then I'm gonna fall, and then I get up again, and like before you know it, you start walking without falling so much, and before you know it, you can jog, and before you know it, you're like sprinting around the house screaming. So the standard approach is just memorize lots of etudes, write and memorize them. I am a fan of that. You're welcome to steal. There's like 3 etudes, but each one has a series of baby steps to it. You're certainly welcome to practice them and play them and memorize them. I'll probably memorize the My Romance at least, if not checking out the other 2. But I plan to spend just a whole lot of time with the basic string set patterns, the whirlwinds, tornadoes, and twisters, and then just exploring 2-5-1s, because to me, that's where I tend to find my freedom. Like getting tricks is cool. It's nice to steal a trick or two, like if you like the sound of a certain whirlwind. I was vamping on this earlier. Like once you get the hang of that, if you know how to access it where it is. Here's E diminished. diminished. This is a different triad pair now. This is A and E flat. But I can now see this against the C diminished, which means if I want to go to A, it's the same thing. Here's F. Right, so that's kind of how I like to function. Memorizing little geometry projects, plugging them in as quickly as possible, being playful in tiny little restricted areas. 5-1, diminished 1, 2-5-1, 2-5-1, flat 3 diminished. Like just tiny little arenas where I can play the sport without having to worry about getting tackled. And then once I get the hang of things and I know how to control the ball, then we can start making things more complex, applying to more advanced chord progressions, longer forms, things of that nature. Part 5, the Q&A portion from our live masterclass. Was this cool? Did you guys dig this? Was it way too advanced? Do you want me to try and make these more intro level masterclasses? I kind of feel like our core courses function as the bulk of what I feel like everybody in the novice level, even up to the advanced, but like the foundation building stuff is laid out in core courses. So I generally think of these live calls and masterclasses as an excuse for myself to push my own horizon as well as to share with you guys. But I'm always open to feedback. If you loved it, hated it, like the really advanced stuff, wish you had more basic stuff. LG, not too advanced, but I do have a question. Let's go. What you got? And I'm impressed because it was too advanced for me. While you're typing, Simone, the whole hour got me lost at some point, but having the recording in the PDF should work. Yeah. Take your time. Go slow. The basic gist is we have a couple of options. You only really need one, but go back over the basic theory in the first couple pages, and then you can always ask. We have open office hours next week if you want to come and hang and ask questions. LG, the triads for the E flat. I'm not sure if you're asking E flat dominant or E flat diminished. Okay. E flat diminished triads would be D and A flat resolving to D minor. For the application, the superimposition application, 2-5-1, flat 3 diminished. Yeah, for that E flat diminished, it's not the only option, but that's the pro tip. That's the quick way. Whatever the diminished chord says, look at the root note, go down 1/2 step. Go down 1 fret on the fretboard. If you can think visually on the fretboard, that's the way to do it, because you're setting yourself up for success when you start playing. So yeah, you look at the E flat, just go down 1 fret. It's a D natural. It's a D major triad. And then the only thing you have to figure out is what's the triad pair. And if I know we have some non-guitar players in the program now, but if you're on guitar, the tritone is always that, right? So if you can see stuff on the fretboard, that's the whole shape right there. Down 1/2 step, D major, A flat. Okay. Now, you can start on A flat and then use D as the secondary triad. You can also displace this triad pair up a minor third or down a minor third, and because of the symmetry of diminished scales, and diminished chords in general, you get B and F if you go up, B and F and B if you go down. Okay, because we're just cutting the octave, the diminished scale, the octave of the diminished scale in half when we do the tritone. So whether you go up a minor third or down a minor third, you get the same 2 triads, but starting on a different triad, F or B. All 4 of those triads can work. Okay, you can do F and B, B and F. You can do D and A flat and D. It's all fair game. It's not like the major scale and the melodic minor where there's like a center of gravity. I don't know if you guys noticed or wondered why there's like a planet floating around on the cover of the PDFs. It's because there's a little sun, a star peeking its light out from the side of it. That planet is rotating around the sun. We can't really see it in the picture because it's a still shot, but that is a picture of gravity. That's why I picked it. The major triad for the major scale and for the melodic minor scale is the sun. And then the secondary triad is the planet floating around it. With diminished, it's just a free-for-all. Like, we're too far away from any stars. There's no gravity. We're just all floating around, okay? But we do want to lump together the two major triads a tritone apart versus the other two triads a tritone apart. Otherwise, we end up with way too much parallel motion and one note shared in common, right? If you do C and E flat together, they both have a G note, which is cool. And there's probably a whole other 3-day masterclass we could come up with fun to be found with triad pairs where one note stays put. But I'm just addicted to motion. I love motion. If I want a pedal tone, if I want something static, I would rather begin with motion and find a way to freeze frame it. Because if it's just static by its nature, then what are we supposed to do with it? Then we have to find a way to create motion. But to me, jazz is an art form built on motion, right? The swing rhythm is supposed to make you want to dance. It's supposed to make you want to tap your toe. The harmony is constant, 5-1, diminished tonic, right? Tension resolution, bebop scales, chord tone, passing tone, chord tone, passing tone. Like everything is motion, movement. C diminished would be B and F resolving to C. Yes, or to any, it doesn't have to resolve to C. Diminished chords can resolve wherever they want to resolve. You could do C diminished resolving to, I see. In the next example, yeah, that would be a C diminished resolving to a C major. Yeah. And you can do G and A minor if you want the C major 7. You could do C and D minor if you want pure major, it's C6. You could do D and E minor if you want to resolve to like a really modern Lydian sound. I don't know how well that works with diminished. Yeah, I mean, anything could work. I don't love it because you're hearing the flat 5 in the diminished, and then it's staying there for the sharp 11 for the major 7 if you do that, which, again, we're losing out on some of the motion. The movement sort of disappears on us, but it's possible. Yeah, lots to choose from. Write all your options out. I'm here to help if you need help. The community's there. If you want to run ideas by other people. And there's probably other harmonies that these different triad pairs could work against. If you guys come up with some, please let me know. I just mapped out the standard go-to ones, the basic diatonic harmonies, as well as the Lydian, right? The B flat, C major triad over B flat. I just mapped those out as the starting point because they're so obvious. They're just right there. There might be other ones. Explore, share them with the group, write out all your options, pick one, and just start gnawing away at it until you get to the center. This is unlocking some great voice leading ideas I'd never thought of before. I'm glad if it's opening up some ideas. I'm kind of in the same boat. It's not our simplest approach. I know there's some new cats that have been hanging. I don't know. Yeah, there's still a new cat or two on this call. This is not where I would recommend anybody get started with our program if you are really big on like a quick win. Like if you want to like make your playing sound ridiculously sophisticated, like scary sophisticated in like under 2 weeks, this is not the topic to do that. Core Course is 1, Beyond Inversions. Okay. It's called 7 Days to Hip Harmony. I've run through that program. When I first created it, I built it as a live program. We literally did it 1 day at a time. And like by the end of the week, it was like a 90+% success rate of people raving. Like, my wife can't believe how incredible I sound. I had no idea what I was supposed to do over this. Like, I can't, like, mind-blowing transformations happen in that course because it's just quadratonics. It's just a triad with one note. This is a lot. But if you like a challenge and or if you've been hanging for a while and you want to dig in deeper, this is definitely a dimension of triad application that I will be exploring a lot. It kind of bridges together all the things I love. It's like the old school traditional Barry Harris type thinking, like just tonic diminished or tonic tension, let's say, because it's not diminished for us. Sometimes it is. That mixed with just the simplicity of three things to remember: major, melodic minor, diminished. But it unlocks all these like modern cluster voicings, quartal voicings, contrary motion, oblique motion. It's just like all hiding right there inside of the shape of triads. But it's going to take some work for me to get to the core of this. So that's how you can combine triad pairs with Barry Harris's concepts to unlock orchestral jazz comping. It's wild that something built entirely on simple triads can open up this much color and sophistication. What do you think? Would Barry have loved this idea or hated it? Personally, I like to imagine he'd give us a long, long side-eye stare and then probably smirk and say something like, "You guitar players." But I'd love to hear from you. What do you think Barry would think? And more importantly, what do you think? Can you see yourself working some of these voicings and orchestral movements into your own comping and chord melody? If some of this felt a little advanced or confusing, don't worry. Download the PDF. Take your time playing through the examples. And if you want to see a simpler way to start using triads to build authentic jazz vocabulary, check out this video right here, where I break down how Charlie Parker used triads in his melodic language to help you demystify the process of developing bebop conversational fluency.